Before we move on, Michael said on stage, let me introduce the team behind this. Nathan leaned toward the screen. Michael started naming people and skipped him. Only now they sounded polished, rehearsed, like they'd always belonged to someone else. Michael's voice filled the hall. Our breakthrough system will change how small businesses manage energy. Applause. No mention of Nathan. Not even the team. Nathan leaned closer to the screen. On the slide behind Michael was a diagram. His own, down to the little blue markers he'd added at 3 a.m. to show data flow. He felt the muscles in his neck tighten. He didn't move. The mug beside him went cold, untouched. Somewhere, the air conditioner buzzed, steady, mechanical, like the code he'd built alone for a year. Long nights, cold pizza, the same hum for company. Now that sound was still there. Only the name on it had changed. The camera cut to Michael holding up a tablet. The app's interface flashed. Nathan's interface. Every line. Every layout exactly as he left it. Michael smiled into the crowd. Built from the ground up by our incredible vision. Nathan's eyes went back to the lower corner of the screen, the timestamp of the stream, blinking. He reached for the mouse, paused, and instead closed the laptop lid slowly, like sealing something off. In the next moment, the apartment felt too quiet. Just the faint hum of his router, the ticking of a cheap clock. He sat back and stared at the wall where the light from the monitor had faded. He didn't say a word. Didn't need to. Outside, a car alarm echoed once, then stopped. Nathan turned his chair toward the window and whispered something only he could hear. Oi. That single word sounded more like a beginning than an end. His badge stopped working the next morning. He held it against the reader 3 times. Red light, short beep, nothing. The same door he'd opened 1,000 times before just stared back at him, silent. Inside, through the glass, he could see the hum of monitors, the empty chair where he used to sit, the faint reflection of himself looking like someone visiting the wrong office. Hey, Jenna, he called when the receptionist walked by. System issue? She didn't stop walking. IT's doing an update, she said, eyes on her phone. Her voice was too quick, too rehearsed. He stood there another minute, pretending to check emails, though his phone had already stopped syncing to the company account. No server access, no messages, no trace. By noon, an email arrived. Organizational restructuring, project integration, your position no longer exists. He read it 3 times, not because he didn't understand, but because it was written to make him doubt he ever did anything worth keeping. He didn't reply. He just unplugged his personal laptop from the dock and walked out with it. The sun hit hard outside, too bright for a weekday. The parking lot was half empty, his old coworkers probably inside, pretending not to notice. At home, he opened the laptop again. The same lines of code waited for him. Clean, ordered, unshaken by anything human. At the top, the same comment he always left on new builds. Created by NC. 2:47 a.m. March 14th. He scrolled through commits, timestamps, versions, pull requests. All proof that this thing had come from his hands. Not from Michael's presentations or his buzzwords, but from those quiet nights when only the hum of the servers kept him company. He poured himself coffee that had gone cold halfway. The bitterness felt about right. Then he opened a blank document and typed one word at the top. Evidence. He didn't know what he'd do with it yet. But for the first time since the live stream, his hands stopped shaking. Outside, traffic rolled by in steady rhythm. Inside, something in him began to settle. Not peace, but precision. The next evening he met with Ben, an old coworker who'd left the startup a year earlier to work in intellectual property law. They sat in a corner booth of a near-empty diner, the kind of place that always smelled faintly like burned toast and lemon cleaner. Ben looked at the folder Nathan slid across the table. You kept all this. Every version. Every email. Nathan's voice was even, almost too calm. They replaced my name with engineering team. Ben flipped through printouts, commit logs, screenshots, time records, Jesus. You've got them by the throat, and they don't even know it. Nathan didn't smile. He stirred his coffee instead, listening to the spoon clink against the cup. Outside, a truck hissed past on wet asphalt. They talked through the legal side. Authorship, licensing, non-disclosure. No drama, just steps, quiet and clinical. It was the kind of revenge that looked more like bookkeeping than anger. Halfway through, Ben leaned back and said, If we do this right, you'll never have to say a word. The data will speak for you. Nathan nodded slowly. That's the plan. For a second, something eased in him. They even laughed once, short, tired, almost human again. For a second, Nathan believed it might end clean. Then Ben's phone buzzed, sharp, cutting through the calm. He frowned. They're announcing a new funding round tomorrow. Michael's leading it. Nathan stared at the tabletop, the reflection of the overhead light sliding across the chrome napkin holder. The moment passed. The quiet laugh was gone. He went home and sat in front of his laptop again, the folder of documents open beside him. His cursor hovered over a new email draft, addressed not to HR, not to lawyers, but to the investment fund listed on the company's website. He attached the file, a file called Evidence, and read the subject line twice before hitting send. About the authorship issue. The progress bar crawled across the screen. When it reached the end, he exhaled, not satisfaction, not revenge, just release. Then he closed the laptop and turned off the light. 2 days later, the call started. First from the office's main line, then from a private number. Nathan didn't pick up either. The messages were short, too polite, routine audit, clarification of development process, minor documentation questions. He let them pile up. Each new voicemail sounded a little less confident than the one before. By the end of the week, headlines began to show up in small tech blogs. Investors delay funding pending code review. The phrase made him pause mid-sip of coffee. He refreshed the page once, then again. There it was, Michael Reed's name, followed by words like authorship dispute and data integrity check. Nathan didn't smile, didn't even move. He just sat there, the screen's glow reflected in his glasses. Inside the office, Michael was unraveling. Nathan knew that rhythm, panic behind glass, meetings that ran too long, whispers near the elevator. He could almost hear it from his apartment, the hum of pressure vibrating through the city. That night, he walked to the corner store for batteries. The street was quiet, wet from a light drizzle. His phone buzzed again, another unknown number. He let it ring out, the sound muffled by his jacket. Back home, he opened the live investor briefing out of curiosity. Michael was there on screen again, but this time the confidence was gone. His hands moved too much. His smile looked stitched on. Someone from the board asked about authorship verification. Michael hesitated. The video stuttered for a moment, then resumed with a single slide shared to the audience, a snippet of the source code. At the top, highlighted in yellow, the comment line blinked on the big screen. Created by NC. 2:47 a.m. March 14th. There was silence. A small sound came through the feed, the shuffle of a microphone, maybe someone breathing into it. Then the stream ended abruptly. Nathan watched the buffering wheel spin until it froze. He closed the tab and leaned back, listening to the faint hum of his refrigerator. It was over. Not loud, not cinematic, just clean. Outside, a dog barked once, then nothing. He reached for the remote and muted the room entirely. A month later, the city felt warmer. Conference season. Banners everywhere. Startups, innovations, the next big thing. Nathan walked through the convention center like a tourist, hands in his pockets, badge clipped to his backpack only because security made him wear one. Booths lined the hall. Lights, screens, polished logos. He passed a dozen pitches that all sounded the same. Then he saw it, the booth from his old company. New design, new slogan, same product. The prototype sat on a white table under perfect lighting. The same interface, the same architecture. He could still trace the path of every data line in his head. But something was different this time. Under the company's logo, a small silver plaque read, "Lead engineer, Nathan Cole." He stopped. For a few seconds, he just watched the screen cycle through its demo, the animation he'd built in silence a year ago. People came and went, snapping photos, asking questions. None of them knew the story. None needed to. A new CEO stood nearby, shaking hands with investors. She caught Nathan's glance, nodded once, a quiet, professional thank you, and turned back to her guests. Nathan exhaled, barely a sound. It wasn't victory. It was balance. He stepped closer, close enough to see the code fragments running in the live feed. The same old line scrolled past for a split second before looping away. Created by NC. 2:47 a.m. March 14th. He smiled, not wide, just enough that it reached his eyes. The noise of the crowd faded behind him. Camera shutters, laughter, the constant hum of air conditioning. All ordinary again. He didn't linger. Just one last look, a quiet nod, a breath closing the chapter. Outside, sunlight hit the glass towers hard. He stopped at the crosswalk. The badge caught the light, then disappeared into his pocket. He kept walking. The story was done. The code had already spoken.